Comrade John, but brief, please, so I can take.
Yes, I just wanted to point this out and let it be clear and important to all of us to know. You are dealing here with a rogue system, that, like we all know, has contacted lobby firms and is even benefiting from the services of the Secretary General of the United Nations to help them do a kind of camouflage on the crimes they are committing on the people of Southern Cameroons. I want to point out here clearly and emphatically that a lot of those images that you are seeing even coming out there with supposed restoration forces molesting some soldiers and all of those things, these are people hired by Atanga Ponji and sponsored by government to come up with those videos and those pictures to enable them to try to give a semblance to the world that the people of Southern Cameroon who are only defending themselves are committing crimes as well. I will take this simple example. There is this the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Cameroon, in Central Africa, which has its head office in Yaoundé. 2 days ago, we saw them bring out an image that only emerged the previous day in the night, and they had an elaborate reaction on that, purporting that this marine officer was slaughtered in the most inhumane manner by the restoration forces of the people of the Southern Cameroons. But this same institution, which is actually an arm of the United Nations human rights body, has not come out a single moment to talk about soldiers caught on video forcing young girls to rub themselves in mud and actually travel in mud. We never saw that institution come up even once to react to those kind of moments. We have seen soldiers burn human beings alive in Kwakwa, in Kombone, in other places of Southern Cameroon. I mean, repeatedly burnt human beings alive. This organization said nothing. We have seen soldiers shoot on the ambulance, shoot down nurses, kill medical doctors simply because they were treating people, civilians, that they wound. This organization said nothing. I want us to take note of this posturing, and it is very important. It is the kind of useless advice given by Squire Patton Burke and the Mercury and the Secretary General of the United Nations that urges this government to carry out those staged, managed acts on their own soldiers in order to implicate the people of Southern Cameroons who do not even have the appropriate weapons to defend themselves.
Thank you. The next question from Eric, please. Let's move on. Then take the next question.
Thank you.
Yes, the humanitarian.
All right, hold on.
I have an answer to
hold
her.
on. Go ahead.
Yeah, she asked a question about humanitarian. What are we doing to the refugees? I want to appreciate what you're doing, CHRO, but note that the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia has a department of health and social services which is in charge of assistance to refugees. And it has carried out many missions, and a lot is being supplied to the refugees back home. So yes, the interim government is very sensitive to that. We're doing a lot in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. My name is Eric Tato. I'm a journalist based here in the DMV area, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. I'm a publisher, editor-in-chief of National Telegraph. My question is related to what the lady asked previously as a follow-up to what one of your leaders just tried to answer, John Baku, about the fact that most of the videos that we see on social media purported from your restoration forces made or staged by the government or this by the government of Mr. Biya. Now my question is this: in our team as National Telegraph, we've often seen the communication minister of La République du Cameroon, like you want to call it, do some kind of rejoinders to say that this is not from them, this is not from them, and they always try to defend that or those stuffs in writing, and they do a lot of rejoinders. But we have never seen a single article from any of these leaders sitting here or from the interim government denying any such thing you put out claim to deny. Because if you say that your soldiers are not killing people or they are not violating human rights, we should be able to see rejoinders from the government. But as far as I'm concerned, as national team sitting here.
All right, thank you.
So what are you guys doing about this?
Nobody here can answer the question.
We have issued numerous statements in reaction to some of the things that are happening in Cameroon. We've pointed out very clearly that Mr. Biya has been begging for a war of national unity. He's trying to stage things, even when they have done things that people have missed completely. We had an incident in the West Province where they wanted to take that one chief to the hospital, and the chief died on the way. And then they came back and reconstituted themselves hostage. That doesn't work in a hostage situation. You know, it's just those kind of stories, you don't even waste time to talk about them because they don't stand up. And if Mr. Biya's government had a case to make, they would go before the United Nations right now and ask that our organizations be declared terrorist organizations and that our case is unjustified. The reason they cannot do it is because they don't want the United Nations to discuss this matter. And this matter is quite very simple. The question is, did the people of Ambazonia obtain independence, or are they still under colonization? If you answer the question in the positive, they did, then they need to enjoy it. If you answer in the negative, which means they are still under colonial rule, then they deserve independence. It is a catch-22. There's no way for them to get around this, and it's because of that, because they cannot face the international music and international law, that they are running circles around and trying to engineer a war where they would say, you know, Ambazonians are attacking French-speaking people or are killing people who are absolutely innocent.
Mr. Herbert, I think you didn't get my question. Let me just rephrase. You talked about the fact that you people have actually made a lot of documents disclaiming some of the acts of your restoration forces on the ground. Can you make citation, because you seem not to be on track on what I'm asking? I'm finding out that if as a government or as a team working together, and if there are violations of human rights, like the communication minister of La République du Cameroon, like you guys prefer to call it, would come on air and say these things are not from our soldiers. I, as a team, as National Telegraph, we have never seen any such document from neither the interim government or any of these leaders. Are you people accepting by conclusion or by by some kind of evidence that you guys are actually guilty of some of the violations going on the ground? I think that is my focus.
I just said we have issued several, and I can send you some. But also remember what Comrade Sako was saying a moment ago. We are not assuming responsibility for all groups that defend themselves. When they go into a village and they start attacking people, people are going to defend themselves. They don't have to belong or be attached to any of our movements. If you were sitting in your house and someone kicked down the door and came in and raped your wife, you're going to defend yourself. And you're not going to defend yourself because you're part of a force. You're going to defend yourself because you're a human being and you have a right to dignity and to your life, sanctity of your life. So you're not going to do it because you're part of a force. So a lot of these things are not connected to any movement that we have. Now, there's a very clear thing that happened at the beginning of this movement after Mr. Biya declared war. We saw, to make sure that it's not criminal groups that are operating, we saw a regiment of an army, the Changshu boys, dressed in their uniform, bring out a flag, sing an anthem of our country, pledge allegiance to a civilian authority in Dadi, and make clear that it is between an army and an army. That our organized forces are working under a system of organized army. Then there are other groups. There's criminality involved in all of this. There's extortion involved, including from Biya's forces. And they would attribute those to, very naturally, if you can see a government that burned down villages, struggle to tell you that we burned down schools, you know, what happened? Are they burning down villages to revenge for us burning down schools?
Weekly broadcasts. So each one those will be sent to you. Yes, we have issued disclosures and those acts that we have not done, we have.
Thank you, thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say, because I don't think it's very accurate to suggest that we are not.
No, it was actually a question that I needed to, in fact, because there are people here who might not have seen the disclaimer, and so I was just trying to push up. And then, but just one last thing I was going to follow up. Just one last thing, Secretary of Communication. We understand that some of you leaders living in the United States are being booked for repatriation. Just 2 days ago, we are saying this because there are other foreign press organs here. Just 2 days ago or 3 days ago, one of your activists was invited at the FBI, the Baltimore office in Maryland, and was actually interviewed by 2 FBI agents. And we have this big scandal. I call it a scandal because according to what we hear at the National Telegraph, that the government of Mr. Biya has made arrangements with foreign governments to get all of you here on the table repatriated and all of that.
We won't waste time to answer that question because we are not living in a banana republic where they will just pick anybody and get taken out of here. Thank you. So we shouldn't worry about that.
Mr. Chris, I thought you want to go the way the questions were being asked. You've passed me like 4 times. I just want to make that known.
I promise you. I promise you. All right. She's professor first.
Oh yeah, thank you. I guess I have to fight for my rights, right? Let me move a little bit away. My question is actually premised from the question of the gentleman here, both of them from Kurdistan and the gentleman behind him that talked about what we are doing. And I'll piggyback from that to say that I would have asked this question directly to Dr. Sako, but after this weekend, I'd rather pose this question to this team, and even those of this team that are not here, for the essence of this weekend. Now, tell us, Ambazonians in particular, and the world in general, why the European Union, the UN, and even Ambazonians in Ambazonia must believe that you all speak for them. And if you don't, why do you think you don't? And if you do, why do you think you do? And my reason of asking that question is, if there's no country, based on this question, that we are working with, that's ready to pull our hand, what is it that we are not doing right?
Thank you.
And how soon do we intend to fix those things?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good question.
Let me take that question.
I think he has a question to Dr. Sako.
He said he was asking to the team.
To the team, okay. All right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I
Please, let's try to make the answer this time a little brief so that we're running out of time.
I want to make that. I actually want to get this fallacy out of the heads of anyone believing that the liberation movements of the Southern Cameroons do not actually speak for the people of Southern Cameroons or for the people of Ambazonia. Let this be taken down the minds and heads of the people quickly. The consortium that ignited this phase of the struggle was a structure made up of several organizations which were civil society organizations, including trade unions. And all of these organizations were made up of members who were Southern Cameroonians. And I want to insist that virtually all Southern Cameroonians recognized themselves within these various groupings. Teachers' organizations were there. We had about all the teachers' organizations involved, both private, both mission and government involved in these structures. We had the press involved and represented by my humble self, representing the entire press system for Southern Cameroons. We had the lawyers represented. We had traders. We had transporters, and everybody and the leaders of all these organizations were generally duly elected at their general assemblies. And trust me that when we engaged discussions with the government side, each time the people had to go back, the leaders had to go back to their members to consult. And you will recall that there was a moment when the consortium felt like we can call off this civil disobedience actions right now and give government some time. The people overwhelmingly in media organs and in all other meetings organized by government directly with the parents. We saw even parliamentarians say in meetings with the Prime Minister that our children will not go back to school as the consortium has said, because the demands we made One, for the demilitarization of our territory, for the release of all those who are arrested, because among the thousands arrested are students who are also supposed to be going to school. Some of them are even from the secondary levels. So what I want to say is, at some point in this struggle, we want to reorganize certain things. That is just all the same legitimate. But to assert that these organizations perhaps do not speak for the people of Southern Cameroon would be extremely erroneous. And the consortium came with this and shared with all the other organizations that joined in the spirit. And so there is no denying that the people of Southern Cameroon find their voice in us. That is why at every given point where they have had to say anything, be it to international visitors or to government representatives, they have reiterated the fact that they stand with us.
All right, thank you. That is absolutely very, very clear. Now, the second part of his question was, why is it that up to now, going back to the question of the reporter over there, can you not assure Ambazonians of some kind of support from some country, Mr. President?
Yeah, I wanted to say that something happened on the 22nd of September 2017 and on the 1st of October. It was the run-up and the proclamation of the restoration of our independence. About 2 million of us came out to make that statement. Anybody who says that we don't speak for them, we called for that march, we called for that proclamation, and 2 million came out and lit up the streets all over the world. That is more than a referendum. So we speak for them. So thousands are defending themselves all over the place. I don't think they're asking for anything less than what we are talking about right here. They frame our people so that, and that they are the ones interested in maintaining the status quo. So they are funding it. If you think that Biya has all the money to pay $500,000 a month or something for lobbyists, not just here, probably also in the EU. We have this information here because we are nosing all over the place. We have people like you who, if they have information, they will try to give us information. But he is doing the same in France, doing the same in Britain, doing the same. Everything we are having is the powers behind the shadow that are actually working against us. But that doesn't mean that everybody is corrupt by that system. We have people who are supporting us, but I don't think they also want their friends to know they are supporting us. So it has to be progressive, because somebody is interested to help you, but he wants you to be quiet because he has a very strong bond with this person and doesn't want this person to know that he is interested in your problem. So we are going gradually. I think we shall get there. Some people will be coming out openly very soon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are out of time here. I will take one last question. And yes, it is your question because you haven't asked one before.
Anyway, I'm asking all of our leaders, what do you tell our brothers who are so comfortable in La Republic's parliament, who are sitting there saying that pretending like there's nothing happening? We've seen Honorable Weaver, who's been the only bold one who has come out and made a statement. What do you say to these leaders as you all sit? If you can look at them and tell them, what do you tell them?
Thank you.
Look, freedom is coming to Ambazonia. There's nothing to change this. The world can help us, but we only need the world to help us. Somebody said they will have to kill all 8 million of us to change what we're going to do now. It is not in the power of anybody to return to you the dignity that you deserve. It is in your power to take it. And everything that's previously legal, which is evil, finds a moment when it becomes illegal because people who are fighting remain resilient. For many hundreds of years, slavery was legal. For many, many years, segregation was legal. In this country, whites and blacks could not marry. It was the law. In South Africa, blacks and whites could not mix. It was the law. We have not seen a single colonialist that ever said that a pro-independence movement represented their people. Apparently, the foreigners represent our people more than we represent our own people. Apparently, they know our pain better than we know our pain. Apparently, they know the kind of freedom they want to give us. If someone wants to give you freedom, it can only be freedom behind bars. Freedom constitutes something where you cut loose of anything that connects and holds you down. And in this particular case, we define any relationship that we have with La République du Cameroun as a colonial relationship. And it is not even one that we could entertain, because if it was even a government that was close to decent, we could even say, okay, we could deal with these people before we get to a point where we could. And it's not because we have not tried. We have tried. Not only with them, we've also tried with Nigeria. And if Nigeria could not stop us in 1953, when our people said we were leaving, Cameroon will not stop us. A member of parliament has already said, remember something about the walkout from Nigeria. The walkout from Nigeria worked for a particular reason. It worked because the British government at the time thought about the constitutional crisis that was triggered by an entire people walking out of a parliament that represented them. If all of our people walk out today from Mr. Biya's parliament, it will not cause a constitutional crisis. As a matter of fact, the fact that he's an absentee president living in a suite in Switzerland or in a hospital, it doesn't cause a constitutional crisis. So the fact that there's a war doesn't cause a constitutional crisis. Nothing for these people will cause a constitutional crisis. And our people, including those who are working with them, including those who are in their parliament, are prisoners. They said a moment ago, how are we going to convince our people on the ground? Our people on the ground are prisoners. How can you speak up in defense of your dignity and your freedom and your independence if you are going to be called terrorists the moment you say it? That is why we must speak for our people from outside. No colonial people fought for independence from inside the territory dominated by the colonialists, except the United States, because the colonialists happened to be across the river, across the Atlantic. And that is why you fought. Now, people are anxious that we get to recognition. I mentioned yesterday at the rally, the United States, big United States, had to wait 2 years to get to a first country that would recognize them, and it happened to be the Kingdom of Morocco. And they were desperate to take anything at that time. So you only have to wait. The people of Eritrea waited. The people of Sudan waited. The people of Timor-Leste waited. The people of, they would try to connect us with Cameroon all what they want. But the people of Ukraine and the people of Russia have a previous history, 1,000 years long. But they're not the same country, and they will not be the same country. And what will we do to signal to our people? We adopted a plan that we have not discussed here at the press conference. Beginning the 30th of September, we are shutting down our territory. We are asking our people to prepare for that moment. Nobody is going to deliver freedom to our people. Our people are going to have to go out and take it. And the way they're going to have to go out and take it is to watch out. Number one, we have experienced this before, and we were in the heart of it. We experienced a state of emergency in 1992. I was among with the leader of the opposition, held under house arrest, and we mobilized our people. We asked them to come out. We asked them to take ownership of their land and to occupy their streets and to prevent the terrorists from moving around. And they took over the entire city of Bamenda. They felled trees, they built barricades, they put oil on the roads to prevent vehicles from moving. They dumped sand on the runways at the airport to prevent planes from landing. And they surrounded the house where we were held under house arrest to make sure that none of us would be taken away, including old mothers who came out, who stripped naked to make sure that we would not be taken away. That is how we completely defeated their guns. We are asking our people to mobilize from the 30th of September, going into our independence anniversary on the 1st of October, and on to the 7th of October, which has to be the last day of Mr. Biya being in power in any part of Africa. So we are asking our Francophone brothers and sisters as well to get ready, because if they have previously spoken about what they call chassement, it is coming now. We are going to be providing them foreign aid to support them to throw out a tyrant that does not deserve to be in any place of governance anywhere in the world. So please, our people need to know they should get ready. The only way this system has worked so far and our people have been killed is because they can drive trucks and bring reinforcements from Douala, from Biya, into Kwakwa and kill people and return. Our people must make sure that they cannot go through Kumba. And if they go through Kumba, they cannot go through Kombone. If they go through Kwakwa, they cannot go on to Mundemba or any other place. And if they go, they cannot come back. And we must do this at the same time. So please watch out, tell our people, the plan is coming out. We've got to kill this, and we've got to bring the world to understand that we will not take it.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's give all the panelists a round of applause and appreciate them all the time, please. I am so sorry if I couldn't take your question. We are running out of time here. And I just want to again take a moment to appreciate all the panelists here, our leaders, for your sacrifice, for coming out to take these questions and answer them. And we want to believe that those watching by way of television, social media have been inspired with all that they've heard from you here. Thank you very much for showing up. God bless you all.
Thank you. I think we have now come to the end of this press conference, ladies and gentlemen. And the leaders of the Southern Cameroon's independence movement, or what they prefer to call Ambazonia, will be walking out of the press house or the National Press Club. And of course,
I'm out.
So we're going to have a few interviews here. How you doing? I'm okay.
As part of our campaign, Mr. Biya has to leave. Mr. Biya has to leave. That's the last day it's the review. We're going to be asking from the phone to do what we want to do to.
Of course, like you've just followed the press briefing at the National Press Club here has come to an end, and we're going to be talking to these some colleagues, some journalists who are also here. Sir, how are you doing?
Oh, let's just say I'm more than a journalist.
Thank you. All right, my name is Eric Tato. I'm a publisher, editor-in-chief of National Telegraph, operating here in the United States. So will you just introduce yourself and then you get a question from me?
Sure, my name is Scott Morgan. I'm the president of Ready Go Enterprises. It is a small firm. I do a lot of security analysis, information gathering, and I also operate as a freelance blogger.
All right, so can you give us an impression of what has actually happened today? How do you feel about it? Have you actually gathered some very vital information that you think is going to,
Basically, when it comes to this, sometimes finding and getting information about what's going on in Southern Cameroon is very difficult. You almost have to go to social media. Because, living and working here in Washington, I have not seen any mention of the event at the Lafayette Park yesterday in most of the media outlets here in Washington. And that's just because of no lack of your part, because there's a certain firm here in Washington that, is doing its best to do damage and image control for Biya.
So we'll just step out because you're saying something very important since there's a lot of noise here. You're talking about a firm here in Washington that is doing damage to the Southern Cameroon's movement. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, SPP Global is is a firm that has, and for the second time in the last calendar year, has impacted U.S. relations with Africa. Last year, at this time, they had just been successful in lobbying the Trump administration to get the sanctions lifted against Omar Bashir in Sudan. And we know that they're also active in what's going on in Gabon, which is another country with a dubious human rights record, and it's a neighbor of Cameroon. And the other company that you should watch out for, Mercury, has ties to Russia, and also has ties to who is currently on trial here in the United States.
Yes.
So, I see some noise here, so we'll pull out a little bit so that we can get all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing a very crucial interview with one of our colleagues. So, probably some people didn't get you. Let's get it all over again. You talked about a firm here in Washington, D.C. that is helping to do damage to... Yes.
Wire patent box, and one of the reasons why some people I know that are interested in this firm because they have two high-profile Republicans working for this firm. One is former Senate Minority Leader Trent Lott, and the other is former the contract on July 11th, and then there are two priests that were actually killed in the Ambazonians. Can we actually come out and say that this firm has blood on its hands, the blood of Christians? I mean, I'm not even Catholic, and I'm here, and this is a situation where there are some faith groups that want to engage on this, and we will possibly within the next couple of weeks, I'll have an idea how we can actually get have that come to fruition.
So, talking about this company that is doing damage to the Ambazonian movement, like you call it, what do you think can be done to stop this company? What sensitization can you do to let the American government know that? Because it would appear to me...
We can do name and shame because last year at this time when it was coming out that they were actually working on lifting sanctions, there were protests at their headquarters in Denver, at their offices here in Washington, at their offices in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. That is just a start. That can do it. And you notice that you're starting to see some of the media outlets like Bloomberg and the New York Times. They're starting to pick up the story. Mm-hmm. They didn't pick it up with Sudan, with the sanctions, but there has been enough of an interest and an outrage to see this coverage. There's optimistic that American people are actually paying attention to it this time. And which is why, which raises another one of my questions, like there are people probably willing to engage Ambazonians movement on this if they actually could find a way to come together.
So you actually, you're based here in Washington, D.C., and you're actually certain about the fact that this particular firm is lying to the people out there, is trying to corrode the image of Ambazonia.
Look at what they did last month. They were supposed to have a briefing about what was going on in the Ambazonians at the UN Security Council. Their New York office went and lobbied all 15 members of the Security Council, passing disinformation about what's going on. They have blood on their hands. There's no other way to put it. They have blood on their hands.
So they have blood in their hands. Thank you very much, brother, for talking to National Telegraph. God bless you so much. We hope to have you talk more. And that will be in the future. We'll have a one-on-one interview with you. So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are running off here at the National Press Club. And so this is going to be the end of this broadcast. We'll just talk briefly to Comrade John Bakuru, like they will call him. Mr. John Bakuru is one of the leaders of the Southern Cameroons movement, and he's just getting out of the press club briefing. So, Mr. John Bakuru, we understand you're one of the leaders of the Southern Cameroons independence movement. Can you tell us your exact impression about today's event?
I think it was again an opportunity for us to, bring some informations to the public about our country. It was an opportunity for us to, educate some, the American press about, some of the the issues that they appear not to have a very good grasp of, and it was also an opportunity for us to clarify a lot of dark zones as far as our approach to ensuring the freedom of our territories is concerned. And I think the objectives were clearly met. I think it was a very engaging moment. And we're going to have to multiply opportunities like this to reach out.
Thank you so much for talking to National Telegraph. We also talked to Professor Ayim, who has been doing a great job according to what National Telegraph has gathered for what they now prefer to call the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. So, Professor, you're one of the leaders of this movement, as we have just been told. Can you tell us your impression about today's event?
My impression is very, very positive. It's very positive. I want to tell you that the activities of Friday up to today have provided the ingredient that was missing in our struggle. And we will continue to talk as one and we assure the world that we will not disappoint. So the activities of this weekend have been concretized and we want to take it forward.
So are you telling the world that all the frontline leaders are working as a team now, as there is unity, in like absolute unity?
Yes, there's big unity. There's big unity, big understanding, and going forward, we'll be working as one people.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
I'm not watching our dirty unions in the public.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We're going to be signing out soon for National Telegraph here. We also want to talk to one of the leaders. He's the president of the Restoration Council, Mr. Kometal Elvis. So, Mr. Kometal Elvis, just before we go, you're the president of the Restoration Council, and the last 3 days in Washington, can you say it's been a wonderful move for your movement as a people, as you call yourself, Ambazonians or Southern Cameroonians?
Yes, Mr. Eric Tato, I will not hide it. I'm really elated. It has been very great. It's been a very great. That should be your background. It's been a very great weekend, and we are not only talking. We walk the walk. So we have to do something to convince our people that we are talking together as one people, and all the resolutions. What we have the resolutions that will all carry them out together, because we know the suffering our people are going through, and we don't like what's going on, so we are doing all we can to make sure that this suffering stops as soon as possible. So therefore, I say it has been a very great weekend, and I believe we have achieved a lot, but there's still much more to do.
Are we going out?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairperson of the Restoration Council.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be signing out soon. We are with Chemlo, another Ambazonian from Canada. We will continue this broadcast subsequently with some special interviews in the days ahead. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for everything. We're going to be signing out at the press National Press Club here already. I think everybody is gone. Usually in the National Press Club, what happens is that you will not expect the place to be very full. It's usually based on invitation. Press organs will come, like you've seen here, and you wouldn't expect it like it's a huge event. Obviously, it's huge because people come to talk to the press, and the particular press organs are going to help to set agenda for that. We're going to be exiting here, but we'll get one last interview before we go with one of the leaders of the movement.
I also attend press briefing
of course.
at the White House when African leaders come. I was there when Buhari came. And there's this Ethiopian guy and some different people. Annoying, good, all kinds of questions.
So we'll take one last question with Ntomfo Herbert, and then we'll come to this colleague journalist before we go. We'll just go to the journalist, then we go to our leader, or the leader of the Ambazonian movement. Let's start you. You want to introduce yourself, sir?
So my name is Simon Ateba. I'm the publisher of Today News Africa here in Washington, D.C. We are a digital platform and we cover the whole of Africa. And you can read us on todaynewsafrica.com. We cover from the White House to the State Department to every single thing that has to do with Africa. And that's why the Ambazonia problem And the Cameroonian problem, is a problem of concern to us. We realize that Mr. Biya, our editorial position is that Mr. Biya has failed. He's been in power for almost 40 years, and he's not been able to do any significant things for even Francophone people. And one thing that concerns me is the Boko Haram crisis and the Ambazonian crisis. He's not gone to northern Cameroon since the Boko Haram crisis started. And when Boko Haram killed 38 soldiers and their corpses were brought to Yaoundé, where his presidential palace is, he didn't even deem it fit to even go there and visit them. Rather, he goes to Switzerland and spends millions of dollars in expensive room and expensive lifestyle. So our editorial position is we don't support a government that maltreats its people, that uses power, and also we don't.
So what is your impression about the Southern Cameroon's independence movement? Because
we stand with the oppressed. We believe that people have the right to protest. People have the right, because if you remember how this conflict started in 2016, there were teachers and lawyers who were killed, and so we stand with the oppressed, and we believe that people have. If we can protest in the U.S. yesterday, we know that there was a protest at the White House. So if people can come to the U.S. and protest at the White House, why can't they protest in Cameroon? I feel people have the right to demand what they want, and so that's been our position. That's been our position.
Thank you.
Today News Africa.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll be talking with Mr. Teba in the days ahead. We're going to make sure that we get a one-on-one with Simon Ateba in days ahead. We're going to make sure we get a one-on-one interview with him, and of course, that's going to be exactly the end of this interview. We'll end here with Tumfor Herbert, who is one of the leaders of the movement. So you just came off a press briefing at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. What is your impression as a leader of this independence movement, as one of the leaders?
First, that we're glad that we came to the same hall at the National Press Club where Mr. Biya's, I don't know how you call it, propaganda machine came a week ago to try and disinform the world, to try and spread lies. We came here to dismantle all of that propaganda that he brought to the National Press Club, and to ensure that the media corps in the United States knows what the truth is about what exactly is happening in Cameroon. Prior to that, we are delighted that we had a weekend during which, the leadership and the people had what you could call a near perfect communion, where we talked about our differences, where we kicked dust in each other's face, we insulted each other, we could have fought with each other if we wanted, but at least we came to a point where we agreed that our country is more important than any differences that hold us. That anything that's separating us pales by comparison to the enormous moment that we are living now and the challenges that our people face. So we've united in our desire to collaborate on a total basis, to build partnership, to strengthen the synergies between us, and to make sure that our people can see that chemistry in what we do, but also in what our supporters do. And one of the biggest appeal that we were putting out is for our supporters to stop taking sides in favor of any of us. Take sides for Ambazonia. Step away from the partisan politics and let us just deal with the issue. We have it looks like an international conspiracy against our people to hold us in slavery and indignity, and we want to break free of that. So if unity brings us there, if collaboration brings us there, we really do want to go there, and we want to stay this course as long as possible and as long as it takes for our people to get to freedom.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
God bless you. We're going to end the show here today. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are ending here at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. And we've been here for over 3 hours. And we've done this video in 2 sessions. The first session was the general presentation of the leaders of the Southern Cameroon's independence movement. And this second session that National Telegraph is doing is based on questions and answers. And of course, I want to thank you very much, fervent listeners of National Telegraph. Keep sharing your views and keep watching and getting us to higher heights. My name is Eric Tatotano, signing out for National Telegraph.